Okay, so let's go over Module 5 review. So take a look at what you had to do last week. So let me get into Blackboard. I'm going to go over to modules on the left there and go into module number 5. So last week was all about styling graphics, right? We finally have something else other than text on our page, right? So graphics are really important to us because they allow us to provide additional communication option for us. So we have text, we have a graphic, and hopefully those graphics provide additional meaning to the content or additional help to users to navigate where they might need to go, right? And so that's really kind of what we talked about, and that is graphics, the different types of graphics that we use, and then how we go about including them in our page and how we style them, right? So you had 3 assignments, the lab, the quiz, and your planning analysis sheet. Yeah, so the second milestone in your project. Okay. All right. It was Chapter 5. I hope you all went to the companion website to make sure that you've updated your books to any updates that were there. Key concepts, right? The full-blown PowerPoints to what we cover in a limited version, right? Tutorials, of course, were there. Any questions with the tutorials? Anybody using the tutorials? Good. I'm glad you all are using them. That's awesome. All right. Your lab files were there, of course, what you have to use through the book for the hands-on and the case study, which is typically your lab, right? And let's get to the first assignment that you had to do, and that was the lab. All right, so Module 5 lab was continuing our quest to complete the Pacific Trails Resort case study, right? And so last week, I think what we had to do was 2 major things were happening in this particular lab. One, you were adding an additional page, right? The activities page, I believe, has now been added last week. And then the second thing was, well, including all the images in those pages, right? Whether they were actually put in the HTML itself or being used in the CSS, right, to display on the pages as like a background or so. Okay? So that's really the big hitters in Module 5 for the case study. Any questions, issues? I'm currently grading those now. So, yeah. Probably not right now, but yeah, put your name on the list and I'll come and we'll talk about, of course, we'll talk about it. Okay? Absolutely. Because I don't know if everybody has the same question that you might have, yeah. Any other questions about the case study, Lab 5 in general? If you have specific questions about my feedback, please let me know. I am happy to sit and we can talk about it. Okay? Absolutely. All right. Well, let's move on to your next assignment. That was the quiz, right? 10 questions, 10 minutes. Take it where you want, when you want. Just don't be late with it. Okay? Anybody using the review games? Good. All right. I think our Tuesday, Thursday morning classes, they seem to use that a lot. They find that very, very useful before they take their quiz. So, and again, don't forget that there's actually questions in the back of the book. Right at the end of the chapter, there's a series of questions. Those will help as well. And the answers are in the back of the book. So that's where the answers to those questions are. Anything else on the quiz? All right. And then your planning analysis sheet. Let's take a look at that. So here are the list of milestones just as a review for us. We have topic approval, which has to be approved by me before you can move on with the rest of the milestones. And then the one that you had to do last week was the planning analysis sheet. Right? So this is like the only part of the course that you can actually move ahead on. Right? So once you're done with the topic approval, these will continue to display once you're done submitting it. So as soon as you submitted this one, you probably saw that the sitemap popped up, right? And as soon as you submit that one, the wireframe will appear, and you can start working on that if you want, so on and so forth. So you can get ahead, if you'd like, by working on the project, okay? And we don't have to necessarily follow the calendar that we have in Blackboard. You have to follow the due dates, of course, but you don't have to worry about submitting, let's say, the wireframe on the duty. You can submit it early. It's okay to submit early. You just can't really submit late. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at your topic of, your planning analysis sheet, which was the, there we go, second one. And there's our site map we'll talk about tonight. So the planning analysis sheet is really, its purpose was to have you think a little bit more deeply about your project, right? So here we're looking at the website goal, which was one of the questions of your topic approval. How many of you have heard of the term called scope creep? All right, what is it? Absolutely. So your project was a size, whatever, right? You had 5 things you had to do for your project. Well, now at the end of your project, you notice that, wow, I now have to do 20 things, right? So as the project goes on, you have either, right, the person who hired you, your boss, other colleagues, whoever it may be, even maybe yourself, starting to add additional things to your project, which we don't want to do. That really throws off our timeline, right? So you base the project, right, on its initial concept, initial approved, right, list of things that we need to get done and accomplish. As you start to add those, the timeline that was built based on the initial, right, is now thrown off, right? So if that ever happens to you, if you're consulting and you have a client that continues to say, oh, go ahead and can you do this for me? I know you're so good at it, you'll be able to do it in 2 seconds, right? Well, those 2 seconds add up, right, and take you away from what you have to do. So you definitely have to be strong in saying, you know what, love to do it. Let's go ahead and put it on a list of things to do afterwards, right? Let's get this initial done, because remember, that's extra pay that you get, right? They are going to pay you for a certain amount of work, right? So by adding these things, they want to get a little bit more out of you than what they're paying you for. So you stop them and say, okay, great idea, but you know what? We're going to put it on a list and we'll create another, right, another project proposal to fix these things once we're done, right? Yeah. Now, if they decide to change the timeline, then no problem, right? You have to let them know, if I do this for you, I may not be able to get this done on the time that you wanted me to. And they say, no problem. Well, now you readjust the timeline. You have them sign off on it, right? You don't want to, just do it, and then they'll say, well, wait a minute, I never said that, right? So have them sign off, and now everything's copacetic, right? Okay, moving on. What topic do I want to see? So this is really simply asking, what are the titles of your pages, right? Because the titles of your pages are going to provide you, right, and me or whoever's looking at the page a very good idea of what that page is about, okay? So it's going to include more than just the company name, right? And so this is essentially your working titles. You'll have between 7 to 10, right? So between 7 to 10 working titles, because that's our project. No more, no less than 7, no more than 10 pages for your project, okay? What information do I need, right? And that is, well, what information do I need? Graphics, videos, tutorials, right? Whatever it is you feel you need, right? That's what I want you to provide there, or wanted you to provide me. Okay. What information will your form provide? Well, as part of the requirement of this project, you need to create a form, okay? And that form, well, you'll have to decide what that form's going to do. Is it going to be a feedback form? Is it going to be a job application form? Is it going to be a return item form? I mean, it could be one of many things, right? And so it's really up to you to decide what that form will, right, be, and then what fields are you going to need in that form, okay? So an order form is going to be different than a feedback form. There's going to be a lot more fields than you'll need in a, let's say, an order form, okay? Even if you're not going to be taking credit card, there's still a series of fields that are going to be, important to you. All right, any questions? That was the planning analysis sheet. Okay. That was our second assignment for Mod 5. I'm sorry, a third assignment for Mod 5. All right, we had a lab, a quiz, and then the planning analysis sheet, the 3. So any questions with last week's module? Basically, how do we put graphics on our page? Okay. All right, let's go back to here. We just covered this.